December 4th. And I'll call a meeting of the Nantucket Cemetery Commission to order for December 17th. I declare we have a quorum present.
December 14th.
December 14th. Yeah. I think. Do I have the right one here? And
I think I need to move over to this chair because it's on. Actually,
I'm here.
sorry, Justice. They are closed.
Right room.
Is that better?
No. But no, it's not curtain, it's just, it shines through. And
Well,
You're real
Yeah.
quick.
Which way down the valley? That's all right.
I'm gonna live
If
the other way.
you rotate them up.
It's bright. There we go.
Oh,
Okay.
that's fine, thank you, perfect.
Okay, where we?
Yeah. Lee was going to try to be with us.
Hmm?
Lee was going to try to be with us. but-
Yeah,
Right, but if he, if, you know, we're in quorum, so
we have a quorum.
if he pops in, he pops in.
So public comments, seeing none.
Mhm.
Any commissioner comments before we begin? So we have another opportunity. Okay, approval of minutes from November 9th. Those minutes are circulated.
Yes, I think I read them at the time and I found nothing to
Right.
change. So
Okay.
I move that we accept the minutes of the November 9th meeting as they stand.
I will second it. Do you want me to try to take notes?
And you?
You want me to take notes?
Oh, yeah, actually, that would be great, because normally what Lee will do is.
I don't know how to post it or anything, but I can take
Yeah.
notes.
Well, Lee may actually get the.
Usually goes in the recording when he hasn't been here. He transcribes it.
Yeah, exactly, but just so we have
Okay.
some idea, so.
So I move,
So move, Barbara,
Yeah.
seconded, all in favor?
we have to do it one at a time. I,
I and chair votes aye. Lot sales. There have been no lot sales since our last meeting. I have had several inquiries, by the way. People saying, they're just calling out of the blue. I don't know what, they got my number somewhere. And they said, we're interested in a plot in Pocus, so I either emailed them back or called them back and say, let's set a date, I'll meet you at the cemetery and explain and that sort of thing. So nobody's. I haven't met anyone out there yet. I've just had a couple of inquiries, so.
it might be seeing what people want here on island at the moment.
Yeah, well, I'm sure with all the busyness of the holiday season that, people are otherwise occupied. Okay, monument monument restoration project. Next steps. We're still waiting to know how much money we have before we can.
Yeah, so the next. So it's 4, 6, I guess 7, all kind of lumped together into what I'll start talking about
There you go.
here. So one of the first things is we got the survey back from GPI.
Which, now this is the.
The one that cost us all the money.
Yeah, this is the one, this is the actual topographical survey. See if I can do this right. So they give us existing conditions of the 7 cemeteries.
Now, these are official surveys, is that?
I believe so, because they're all stamped. You know, topographical information. I don't, Lee was saying there's 2 different types. He's more of an expert on it than I am, but they give us the locations and types of headstones along with the topography of each cemetery. This is founders.
Oh, founders.
Yeah, some of them are a little tough to figure out what they're. So we got the dirt road in, and then there's the cluster of monuments at the top of the hill, and apparently a few others that are kind of scattered about.
They actually found something else there. Can you back up a minute?
Yeah.
What's the little purple thing?
Other headstone, tombstone.
Yeah, apparently there are 2 flat other headstones there and down here apparently.
No idea.
That was in 2022. Oh, no, that's just. the date.
Wouldn't that be the broken one that the Gardner stone?
No, that would be there. The gardeners would be, I think the new one sort of facing the monuments.
Mhm. That one, Fran?
No, I think it would be the one down there, because if you stand where the monuments are,
Oh,
huh. But that's really interesting. I have no idea that there might be anything more there.
I'm just trying to get oriented here. I think that the 2 side by side with the blue, those are the monuments. And then,
That would mean that the John Gardner one, if you stand at the monuments and look this way, that would be the John Gardner headstone there. But this says other headstone,
Tombstone, footstone.
footstone, and then there's something here, and that really surprises me. I had no idea there was anything else there. Huh, we'll have to go and
Yeah.
look.
Field trip.
interesting.
Huh,
Yeah, I was just up there the other day. I walked the whole thing with a big giant house stone.
Be nice to have this with you.
Yeah.
Wow, these are very detailed.
So this is
New North Cemetery,
New North.
which I did. I'm working with Google right now. I happen to be on Google Maps, and I've got some mislabeling. Old North Cemetery is actually labeled as a house kind of down the street. Actual Old North Cemetery is labeled as Newtown Cemetery, and New North Cemetery isn't labeled at all. So I was just on Google.
How do you correct it?
I just submit it.
Oh, you do, okay.
Yeah, so I was on the website. I've done a bunch of other stuff, well, you know, on the island with Google moving things around. So I have a pretty
Our
decent.
neighborhood, I know there's an error, so I can actually submit it to
Yep,
you.
yeah, you can go on, if you know, and if you know an error, and they'll see, you can make
Great,
a
thank you.
modification. I'll usually review it and accept it.
Great, thank you.
Roads and right of ways.
I'm quite thrilled that this is terrifically useful information. I guess it's worth the money.
Well,
Especially if it's the official
It's across the street.
for an official survey. Because we have batted that about a number of times.
yeah, right. So this is Old North. So this is on this.
So it looks like there are a few that are actually out past the bound
Yeah,
in the back.
yep. Which
Yeah,
we
those are
have
the-
wondered.
Yeah, those are the last ones that Ricky Lewis put in. And when he was looking for space
He found his own.
and town cemeteries, and they're definitely right against the property
Well,
line.
the thing is, I think that I recognize these as the relatively new ones, but what we're looking at is these that are outside.
Right, yeah.
I don't think those are Ricky's. I think those are some that All right, sorry. Now down along Wires Way, things are very close up.
Hmm.
Yeah, there are several very close. I've walked the property lines, both of them, basically looking to see if there are any stones in the brush that's there. And the only ones that I noticed were in the Wires Way,
Mhm.
this brush line in there, and there are a couple of in Newmore Cemetery.
Mhm.
Newtown.
Yeah. I believe this is the section here that we're looking to have
Yeah.
consolidated.
That's exactly right, yeah. Oh,
Office.
interesting.
Oh, it's really-
It's like,
Yeah, correct. Well, maybe it is worth the 30,000 to see how we. have to do with
I really like to be
seeing
interested.
how
I
what's
know,
already been
if
paid.
it's, if they're,
Well, good.
official surveys.
Hi, Lee.
Will we get a printout? Oh, there's Lee.
Yeah, I believe
You're
you needed
muted.
Lee.
I just saw that.
Welcome.
Hello.
We're already started, Lee, we're on, we're talking about 4 monument restoration. I've been taking a few notes, but you can, so that's
I'm
no
gonna take over. I apologize.
problem.
I had a little trouble logging in.
Okay, so can you see the screen
Yes,
with the maps on it?
yes.
Great.
These are the maps that we, that the
GCI.
surveys, they were the surveys that were done that we were trying to figure out what they were doing and so on. So they did, surveys, did they do all 9?
It was
Just
7.
the 5?
It said 7. That's what
So
I
they
said at the
didn't,
beginning.
usually you do the quizzes.
Well, let's see which one we don't have.
Yeah, let's see.
It's
They
like-
wouldn't have done what they
Oh, there's-
This is Quaker. I believe this is the last page.
Now, are these, can we get a printout of these?
Yes.
Right.
I don't know how big they'll print for walking around purposes.
Well, I
We can
guess
try
we'll
one, we can
make
try
like
one
school paper file
and find out.
see what's on them. And
So these are small file format, and then I have a very massive file. They also gave
But
us
if
that can be
we-
put into CAD for professionals to use for us.
If we had them say on an iPad, it might
Oh, yeah.
be big enough.
Oh, yeah, like I get just
Yeah.
in the view format here.
Yeah.
I'm just because I'm sharing my screen, it makes it tough to kind of zoom into these things. Yeah, I can happily email this file there to the group, and then you can
Fabulous.
put an iPad, zoom in, out, whatever you.
Good.
Thank you.
All right.
I found the elevations very interesting.
So
We haven't had that before.
the topographical ones and stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very handy. On the, Newtown Cemetery, the boundary, they did show all the boundaries and they included the parcel. I can't read where it says here, but
On 40,
This one here?
no, above, in the middle of the plot.
yeah, town of Nantucket, 40 Sparks Ave.
Oh, that's all it said? Oh.
Yeah.
So that's the lot that we're trying to, I think, incorporate into as part of the cemetery.
Yeah.
And I wonder if this would do as a survey, because apparently what the town has been waiting for is survey. Lee, do you have any idea whether we could use this map to?
I'm gonna suggest not, because there's a whole section over, as you look at the screen on the left-hand side, which would be yeah, that's all part of the cemetery, and they seem to have ignored that.
Well, I believe that's the part we're trying to consolidate. It looks like right here is the pathway
Yes,
through the cemetery.
right.
lot between 40 and 46 is right here. So this would be the unused portion, and I believe the next lot on the other side, although they don't have it marked here, would be the auto body.
Yeah, I
Whereas
think
down
so.
here, they have, you know, the different lots and the lot lines marked coming across. This, I believe, has all the lots and the bounds.
But I thought that the part that Lee's talking about was also part of what we were going for.
Yeah, I believe that is.
Yeah, number 40,
Yeah.
the other side
Exactly.
where they kind of cut that pathway through.
That whole
Yeah. that
blank
whole
spot
wedge.
It
there.
actually looks like there's two lots. Looks like this would be 46. This maybe they're calling 40. Oh, it's okay. There's multiple lots. This here says 44 Sparks. Then there's the pathway, and then 42 Sparks, and then 40.
They've left out 40.
It's right here, Lee, where the little hand is.
Yeah, but they
Yeah, I
have,
know, but there's no topo survey of 40.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they didn't do that because it's
No.
out of the actual cemetery.
Right.
So it probably wasn't in the bounds of what is considered.
Charlie, our whole point is it is part of the cemetery.
That's what we're trying to get back, right? Does I understand?
Right. Yeah, that's.
But Lee, our question right now, obviously, is also, do you think that these are good enough bounds? I mean, this is a $30,000 project. It'd be nice to get the maps out of it.
We could try, but it's not a recordable survey.
Well, I think we need to pursue it, and I guess Sandra Vorse would be the one to sort of or to answer the question of what is that part of the cemetery? Do we need to do anything further to merge that as part of the cemetery, or, you know, but that is definitely the chunk.
Yeah.
That we've been, in fact, we did some radiocarbon dating in there
Yes.
already.
And we blocked it, and yeah.
Yeah. So,
But when did they do this? I mean, I know they submitted it now, but when did they actually do this?
This was over the last year.
Oh,
yeah, it was fairly recent.
Yeah, originally they were supposed to turn everything over to us
Yeah.
in August. Typically, most town contracts, unless it's a massive road project, have a 1 year time span. So this was amended to give them until December to give us deliverables.
Right.
So it should be all current within the last year.
All right, well then, I guess maybe what we should do is.
Charlie, let's go through a quick review. In 1998, Andrew Vorse accepted a petition to subdivide the cemetery because the premise was that the portion to the left, which I'm looking at the arrow, that would be to the east, was not part of the cemetery. That's when the entire cemetery was divided into 3 or 4 lots. But if you go back to the 1913 assessor's map, the entire section was marked as cemetery. And that's our premise. It's been a cemetery for well over 100 years. And that makes it in Massachusetts law a cemetery. So I'm not sure why these people didn't survey that portion. Now, as to whether or not this survey will do to meet town council's requirement for a survey, I can't answer. We need to talk to Vicky Marsh.
Right. All right, well, what I'll do then, I'll contact probably Andrew Vorse, I would think would be the place to start. And explain what we've got here and explain that.
But at least it's all marked out. I mean,
Yeah, it is.
Alan, I would suggest that you chat with Ken Bogrand first and see what he says about how we proceed.
Good idea. Great, okay, well, Maybe we'll get our $30,000 worth out of this. Okay, so as far as the monument restoration project, I guess really the next steps are we have to first figure out how much money we have. And once we determine how much money we have to work with, then we can put out the bid for Quaker, presumably because that will cover whatever. But if not, we'll take it from there.
Yeah.
And
So
then,
as far as money, Lee and I met with Brian a week ago to kind of discuss our accounts. So one of the things that I'm waiting for, and I'm just looking at the GIS map for the cemetery, and my guess is when this was commissioned, that they didn't ask for 40 Sparks Ave, because on the GIS it is shown as 3 separate lots, and if they were looking at just the cemeteries, if it wasn't considered
Too bad though.
by the people who asked for it, that's why they didn't include lot 40. Would be my guess. I have an email into GPI just to find out if they have any more invoices for us, because the original contract was for, I think it was $50,000. They've only billed us for 32 so far. So if they do have further invoices, it will, the balance of our 2 restoration accounts will go towards that. Plus, I think whatever I have left in my professional services account, or from one of the DPW accounts, will pull some money to pay the remainder of that balance. So once we find out if they've, I'll have an answer for the January meeting about any invoices there. Lee and I spoke with Brian about our lot sale fund accounts, and he was going to talk to Libby for us, and they should be able to just put an article in FinCom to transfer those funds into an account for us to do the restoration or work on the cemeteries. So I got to finish putting together. I got knocked out last week with COVID, so I'm back first day in the office, back now with a negative test. So I'm going to put together, relook at the numbers as to what our remaining cemeteries will cost, so we can put an estimate and say, Brian, we'd like to transfer. I'm probably just going to tell them all of it, so we have access to everything that's in there now, and then make sure we word it loosely enough. Because I'm learning with all these things, if we specifically say for just restoration work, then we couldn't use it for split rail fence or something like that. So we'll ask it to be worded loose enough for work, for restoration, and any maintenance repair work on any of our cemeteries. And then that would go through to the town meeting, be one of those things most people probably won't look at or ask for it. I'll just give the FinCom hopefully a thumbs up, and we'll move forward. And then if we don't have any invoices incoming from GPI, then we can start more actively looking at, there's about $17,000 there or so for restoration works, and we could then pick another, Quaker Cemetery if we wanted to move forward. I think that's right under $8,000 or so, or we could look at some combination, and then we could put those out for bid until we get access to more funds, and then we'll take a look at all of the cemeteries that are left, and if we need to go back to CPC for another grant to finish the work on all of them.
okay, well, sounds like a plan. I still don't, for the life of me, remember authorizing the survey. I think of all the money that we could have used to go into. Anyway, that's water under the dam.
Yeah.
All right, so we did accounts and finances. How about supplies, the tow marker, car marker?
So I actually, Walter Truss, who is the guy who's done LMC contracting, he goes through all of our minutes. And so he actually reached out to me and said that they have markers that they use, and they would look similar to this. If it's something we want it to go, that they could then engrave how we want it to.
Okay, well, those are nice, but they're expensive, aren't they?
When I asked him if he could send back a price, some pricing stuff, this was just some very quick emails.
Right.
So this could be something where we could maybe do just a head of each row on either end, with a granite marker like this, and then do the toe markers. I actually just found a file from
Charlie, who supplied these markers?
it's LMC Contracting. It's Ludlow Memorial. They're the ones who've done the restoration work for us in the Old North. And so I found some information dating back to 2015. I believe is when we were looking, when some of the previous toe markers
Mhm.
were ordered.
That's one time ago.
And I don't know.
I'll show you how. I'll give you an example. Let's say you have something to
Up here. So this looks like some of the research that had been done originally.
Exactly, yeah, I remember, that's typing up the list.
So these were just a couple of different vendors. I'm not sure. I just found this for like 10 minutes before this meeting. And so we had obviously asked about different markers of pricing. I'm sure things have changed in 8 years.
Yeah.
But it's a good place to jump off if we want to do that.
So Lake Shore is where we got the ones for Pulpus originally.
Is that where? Yeah, because
Is that-
there's some. Well, there's a couple different quotes. There's Lake Shore.
Okay.
With some of their different options, I think. And there's Holland Supply.
And those definitely are, that's an order.
Yeah, this is an estimate,
Oh, it's an estimate.
but they did give it. They didn't respond with an official estimate. So there's some headway and some vendors that we have used, obviously, here in the past. So it'll just be a matter of figuring out who it.
Now, the cast aluminum would show up on a metal detector, right?
I believe it should, yeah. It'd have to be more than just what I would call a roadside
Yeah,
detector, the ones that detect just hard cast metal. But if it's large enough where it has, three letters on it, and so we could do the granite at the head and foot of each, or the edge of each line, and then at the toe each individual lot, J 29 or whatever it is. If that's how we want to do it, or what was done in the past.
well, that's what we did. We had blank markers. They were, I think they were steel, but anyway, they were, well, whatever metal they were. They had a pin about 8 or 9 inches long and just a circle at the top. And we could just push those in the ground at the 4 corners. And then we centered the ones with a number, the letter and number on it. So we, and that sort of thing. And it, according to Roy Sylvia, he said the corner markers are really the crucial ones, because when they're looking, they look for the corner markers and then they make sure they're in the right
number.
the right.
Yeah. Great.
So it's kind of like what they got there.
Yeah. So with all the kind of stuff here, I can start digging into, see if we can figure out who we got them from, so that they'd be the same, or at least
Yeah.
Great.
get close.
All right, well, good. Once we
Great.
find that out, and then once we figure out how much money we have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Then we'll,
Right.
as soon as we get those things, then we'll place the order. And as soon as we place the order, then we'll make the arrangements for actually going out and putting them in the
Yeah.
grounds.
That'll be a big step,
Yeah, that'll be great.
and it'll last for a while.
Yeah,
Yeah, and hopefully in the upcoming budget for, once we turn the fiscal year, I've put in pretty good increases for Parks and Rec, so we should be able to have plenty of room to cover that sort of stuff.
good. All right, so it sounds kind of like our finances are more or less, I would say under control, but you know,
Moving. Progress.
yeah, at least we have an awareness of what we're dealing with. And we have a plan going forward as far as Fulton Cemetery, ordering the markers and all that sort of thing.
Now,
And I guess
with
that is,
respect to Fulton Cemetery, after our last meeting, apparently Ken weighed in with you that what we were asking to be done was not to be done. He said he had a long conversation with you, right? Because we said we needed to record that we have an infringement. And then he's basically, I gather, put the kibosh on it.
oh, you're talking about the neighbor, you're talking about Mrs. Susie, what's it? Yeah, I've met, you know, twice or 2 or 3 times with Ken Bogre.
Yes.
Go over what happened, what transpired there. And Ken said the town is, there's some threat of a lawsuit. And I said, for what? I said, the encroachment is not our problem, that's their problem. They are encroaching on town property. And they came to us, made a proposal, we've gone through all this nonsense back and forth. So, after 6.5 years of dealing with this, I mean,
We're failing to deal with it.
we have determined that we don't need their property, and particularly where the property that they were planning to give us was in that corner where there might be some.
And it was actually specified the time.
We
the
never had
time.
a map.
Right. No, he was just talking to someone else.
Oh, really? So, anyway, I'm going on the assumption that whatever happens as far as their encroachment, I mean, let Ken can deal with the encroachment or whatever, but, we will, by setting out these new, lots, we're not gonna be on anything that might have been traded to them.
I understand that, but I think what Fran is referring to is, we feel like Ken gave us the message that we're obligated to with the Hicks, is that we have an informal agreement,
Right.
right?
And-
And have we? has-
So-
Alan and colleagues, Ken tells me that it's actually progressing, that the town and the attorney for the abutters have agreed to swap easements rather than the land itself, because that way we avoid going to land court. He seemed to think, as he told it to me about 2-3 weeks ago, that it will advance quite smoothly if each accepts an easement on their property. We accept the Hicks's ability to use our land with an easement, and they accept our ability to use their land with an easement. And that would be the same as what we've been looking for in terms of a actual legal swap. Now, I can't tell you that anything has happened since Ken told me this, but it did sound like it was advancing.
Well, we'll see. You know, if it's a question of an easement, I mean, you know, I would assume that the easement would just address their encroachment on the property.
No, Alan, they would get 21 feet of our property and we would get the equivalent amount of their property. It's not just the encroachment, it's the equivalent of the swamp.
Right.
We don't
I'm-
particularly want that.
I'm not sure we want to put burials in a place where there's an easement, but be that as it may. I do see Ken on a monthly basis anyway. So when
And you have something else to talk to them about. anyway.
yeah, so I'll follow up with Ken to see what he thinks the status of this is. And if they're talking about easements, maybe we can get some information about what.
That's the very first I've heard of
Yeah,
this.
that's the very first I've heard of an easement as well.
But you did have a conversation with Ken since our last committee meeting.
Yes. And I
And it did address Fulkus,
did, that's the only reason, yeah, that's what
but it didn't bring up this issue of easements.
he didn't. I don't remember the word easement coming out of his mouth at that point. Be that as it may, it could
Because
be,
it sounds like this business of we give them an easement, they give us an easement, it's basically just giving them a free ticket. After all of this time and all of this non-cooperation, we're saying, okay, you got to have everything just the way you have it. And
well,
you're going to give us some stuff we don't want or need.
right.
That doesn't strike me as a really good arrangement.
Let's see what the document is that they are talking about. I mean, I have no idea, as I say,
And we
easement.
have never, ever had a map.
Well, and that's what I mentioned to Ken. I said, look, we've been talking about this. I've asked him repeatedly to get Rick Bodett, their attorney, to provide us at least an indication of where. And the most recent thing that I heard from Ken on this is that they wanted to give us a piece that abuts the Swains Neck.
Over there
Road.
in the woods.
Yeah,
Right.
in the woods, as
Right.
far away from their property and so on.
One of the questions to Ken should be, I mean, because I kind of got the feeling that we were being told, we initiated this, we're now stuck with, we have to go through. But I feel like if we haven't seen the map, and if the
Mhm.
map does come and it's not acceptable to us, then we can be finished with trying to do it. And that's not acceptable to us. We're not
Right.
gonna give you that 21 feet. We don't like the 21 feet or whatever it is that we're getting because it's a wetland or whatever. Then we can, I would like you to ask Ken that how
Well-
do we get out of? Can we get out of pursuing, like, can we drop this?
Right. s- all right,
Yeah, is that clear and reasonable?
it's clear and reasonable, but I have asked Ken again and again and again for a map. Show us, what are we trading?
And do we have to trade it? If the map comes back and it's not satisfactory,
If we're beyond any sort of a trade, if we're just talking about an easement and so on, then I have no idea how much land they need to clear their easement, because remember, their encroachment is 11 inches over the length of the barn, about 20 or 21 feet. So if they're talking about giving us 20 feet or something, and then that's.
but then they want 21 feet.
So, until we see a map,
Right.
we have nothing to negotiate for. I mean, there's no negotiation. And that's been the problem for the last 6.5 years, is that they have.
Hopefully you can get a little bit clearer answer.
I think we should really get Ken to come to a meeting and talk with us in person instead
Well,
of this.
Oh, Ken, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I thought you said the neighbors.
No, I mean.
Yeah.
We're getting everything.
Well, Ken can join us, he's free. In fact, he was going to join us today, but he had a conflicting meeting, so.
Well, maybe we need to ask him that we really need to.
Well, I'll speak with Ken before our next meeting.
I
And,
won't be at the next meeting, you understand.
well,
Barbara will be.
I'll speak with Ken before the next meeting and I will communicate with the commission to, whatever I find out at
Yeah.
that point, so that we have some.
And nothing's
idea.
gonna be decided in February, January anyway,
And-
how this goes.
I would say I've made it clear to Ken that we're just gonna go ahead and lay out lots on our property. And the lots we're laying out have no impact on any easement or, whatever. We're not going up to their barn or whatever it is.
Plus 21 feet sounds to be quite a lot.
Well, if it's 21 square feet, I mean, that's,
Oh, well, I didn't assume that. I assumed it was 21 feet into.
oh, no,
our
I
land.
don't think they're talking about the length of the property. They do have a 300-foot setback requirement, but they claim that that doesn't hold any water.
I just think we have to
because-
be really careful here.
Yeah. So I think, again, the problem from the very beginning is that we have not seen any sort of a proposal from the Hicks. And that's why we're still spinning our wheels.
Yeah.
So, okay,
Yeah.
in the meantime, before our next meeting, I will talk with Ken and I'll let everyone in the commission know what, what I've discovered to go on.
Okay.
Okay, is that it?
You,
Oh my gosh.
Cemetery Commission Capital and Operating Budget, did we already do that?
Scotty was going to talk with the people who did Old North about that fallen and broken stone that they had repaired and cleaned, and then it had fallen over and broken. And he was going to get in touch with them about that, but of course, everything has changed because of his family situation. So I don't know if he had been in touch with them or not, but that was a sort of crucial thing. We can't say that that job is done to our satisfaction when we have this fragmented, broken stone there, and he was going to ask them if they would come back and probably just cut it away to preserve as much of the inscription as can be preserved, and then set it upright after the model of what they've done to another monument in the same cemetery.
I'm sure Scotty would take an email. We can find out.
Yeah,
Because he emailed me after he emailed all, and I responded and he was trying to write back,
Yeah.
so I think.
are we making any progress in figuring out how we could get all of the stones in Old North clean?
That was where we
Oh,
were at DPW.
And I've got that. Yeah, usually, I did reach out to the school.
In
Do
terms
you want to
of
do that now?
volunteers.
Right, and they never responded. I wrote, and I've written twice, so,
I had a meeting with our, with the three boys that have helped us out doing trash stuff. We had a big meeting. This is becoming much bigger project. I suggested things like that, and they seem very interested.
great.
It's
What I-
once we get some warmer weather, I mean,
Yeah.
we'll be.
I can write her again, I will write again after this meeting.
Mhm.
And see if there's, because I asked questions like how many hours of service, and we have, but anyhow.
Well, it could be that they wait until the spring to do that when they realize.
Yeah, the receivers realize they can get it done.
The administrative, I will pursue it,
And they're getting their resumes together.
yeah.
Okay, anyway,
Oh,
that,
another question about Old North, and that is the decrepit wooden sign. Remember for,
you're talking about Old North, the
I'm
Ruben.
talking about Old North, the
Yeah, the
Ruben
Ruben
Shade.
Chase, yeah. I did, contact Ray Sylvia, by email or text, I forget which it was. I told him about the sign, I gave him the location of the sign, and I haven't heard back from him, so, well, I assume, I did ask him to go take a look, I gave him the description, and I said, is this something you can do? Can you replace the sign? or should we just remove it?
Right,
So,
Well,
that's exactly what we'd like to know.
yeah,
he'll
exactly.
just
So
Maybe
I,
another email, like,
yeah, so I put that question to him and asked him to go look at the sign and get back to me, and
Give him a little nudge.
I will. Yeah.
it's season, it's hard season.
It's one of those things, I try to call first, and of course, his mailbox is full, his phone box is full, and so then.
Good idea.
I either texted or emailed.
Ellen, this is Lee. Maybe Charlie can actually rub shoulders with Ray and ask what's up. If you see him in the DPW office.
Yeah,
Oh, sure, yeah.
Um,
Well, I'm pretty sure that, you know, he'll follow up and take a look for it. You know, this.
Yeah, well, let's just,
But yeah,
Ask him.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Okay, capital and operating budgets, at 73, is there anything we need to do to attempt that, or is that what you're working on?
that's what I'm working on. I got some budget stuff. Capital, we'll have to, you know, we can talk more about as we, you know, as we go forward. Once we kind of get
Once
all our
we-
financial house in order, and we see what we need for further
Exactly.
restoration work. Then we want to be ready, you know, in this, you know, early spring before fiscal year, we'll have a good idea where we're at, what we need, and then we can decide how, you know, if we're gonna go to the CPC for whatever funds we, you know, we might need there. And then, like I said, as far as the actual
Mhm.
budget for other things, I put in a pretty sizable increase because I had to build out the Parks and Rec budget.
Mhm.
So hopefully if they sign off on everything I asked for, we should have some good money there to be used for, you know, grounds and,
Yeah,
you know, and everything. So we should get, I believe, all set.
good, good.
I have some old business.
Old business.
Last time you asked me to write to Lena at the school, and I did, and she responded, she said, unfortunately, I can't leave school early. Contractually, it doesn't, keep me in mind if you change the date or time of the meeting down the road. So that's
Yeah.
what she wrote back.
Okay,
So,
you know, in terms of that, I was thinking about that this morning before our meeting, I was thinking, you know, we're all sort of, that appear except for Scotty, of an age where,
and Charlie.
well,
Well, conveniently, you meet at my office.
so, we, you know, I always like to think sort of long term about the different committees and so on that I serve on and so on. And, you know, we've been very fortunate, like everybody on this committee has been somebody who's been recruited and brought together because we're interested and so on. So, I think just knowing that there are people out there, and maybe if they read our minutes and, you know, depends on how interested they, you know.
Right, I think it's hard. I think, you know, if you're a busy full-time
Yeah, exactly.
person, you're probably not gonna take the time to read the minutes.
If I was
but-
working full time, well, that was.
And I don't know, I think, obviously, it's nice to have a response that should be interested in the future. But, you know, probably almost everybody could, in the future, is gonna say 3/3, three's not gonna work. So, I don't know, that may be something we decide to do. down the road.
I don't think we should sacrifice an interested young person.
But we also don't wanna really meet at 4, do we?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, you know, we're meeting at the convenience of the
Yeah.
DPW at our convenience. and-
I have other meetings that start at 4 and later, so it's, you know, at least while we have, you know, Zoom capability, because we think we have it until March. And they'll, fingers crossed, they allow us to,
I would think
I would think it makes everything easier, because I
it does.
mean, I've got
Oh,
meetings
me too.
often that stack on the hour, and I just log out of one and into another instead of having to hop in a car and try to
Yeah.
make it off island. So maybe for, you know, in the future, if maybe a 3:30 start, you know, it would allow her to, you know, finish with school and then maybe log in, you know, via Zoom if she's interested in bumping back a half an hour. Instead
Oh,
of a
I could,
full hour.
I didn't wanna pursue it until I brought it up. here, but I could certainly write to her and say, if we really want to pursue it,
Mhm.
would 3:30 be good for you, or do you want to chime in late? Because obviously she doesn't, anyone we talk about, not just Lena,
Mhm.
wouldn't be a commissioner. So they'd really just be attending.
Mhm.
So I don't know how much motivation that would be.
Well.
Or maybe we could do a trial meeting in, maybe February, that last meeting in March, so we'd like you to join, our start time at 3:30. This meeting, so you can at least attend one, via Zoom and see what, she may decide. It sounds like it's too much work. I don't want,
All right,
do it.
that's a really great idea.
So maybe a February or
February, possibly.
March
February
meeting.
in
February,
or
we know for sure we can do Zoom. March,
Zoom in.
we might be right around the date.
Okay, I think that's lovely. I'll
Yeah.
throw that out.
And in the meantime, keep an ear out for anyone
I've been thinking about it.
in our own circle who might be.
Well, in our younger circles.
I mean, yesterday we had a meeting of the board of the Friends of Belle Island Homes. It's the same thing. We really need to add more board members.
Yeah.
But in a sense, when they see how much work is being involved, people shy away.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's one of the pluses of that committee. This commission, we meet once a month. I'm always telling people that Alan runs a meeting that doesn't run much more than an hour, which is pretty
Yeah.
rare. We
Yeah,
go over.
And
That's pretty appealing.
One of your greatest virtues.
No, it's real skill to run a meeting.
And if people are really interested, I would think that they would want to go over our minutes and see
Yeah.
what we've done, kind of issues.
Well, I will reach out and,
So,
that and see what happens. Okay.
Okay, is there any other old or new business? Late, any old, new or?
Oh, thank you, no. But let me ask, were there any lot sales that I missed?
No. No luck.
Okay,
I'm gonna send you an email with a few notes I took.
yes, please, Barbara.
Will do.
Okay, I declare we are at the end of our agenda and the meeting is adjourned.
Merry Christmas, Lee.
Thank you all. We'll be with my son Adam and granddaughters.
What's the score behind you?
What's that?
What's the score?
Again?
The soccer game on the TV behind you, what's the score?
That is semifinal, France and Morocco. France 2, Morocco 0.
All right, thanks, Lee.
I didn't know you could see that. There it is. Priscilla can't hear me because she put the earphones on.